Hello, my name is Laura. I am a high school junior, and I and 3 other high school students recently got the opportunity to interview panelists about their choice of careers at COSI Columbus in NASA's Future Forum. Joining me is Dr. Baeslack, the Dean of Engineering at The Ohio State University. Today we'll be discussing science and technology's place in our world's future. Good morning.
Good morning.
Can you tell us a little bit what you do as Dean of Engineering?
Well, as a Dean of Engineering, I oversee a very large college of engineering at Ohio State. It's about 6,500 students, about 275 faculty, a number of academic departments ranging in everything from aerospace engineering to welding engineering. And so it's an exciting job. It's one where I actually personally still am able to do some teaching and research, but my job primarily involves oversight, administrative leadership, planning, implementation, and working to advance the quality and excellence of everything we do.
Now, why did you decide to pursue engineering? What drew you to it?
Well, originally, way back when I was in high school, I was a kid of the 60s, the late 60s, so it really was the space race, the John Glenns and the Neil Armstrongs. That was what really interested me in science and technology and aerospace. I originally actually began as a student at Ohio State in aerospace engineering. So my goal was to be a pilot. I was an Air Force ROTC and was on a 3-year scholarship there, and that was my track until pretty much late in my undergraduate program when I sort of shifted gears and went a little different direction. So that was really, it was the space race, it were the astronauts, it was the excitement around that, that really, even at a young age, elementary school, junior high school, that moved me in that direction in terms of science, engineering, and ultimately aerospace.
What would you say is the most difficult and most exciting part of your career?
Well, which part of that career? As
an engineering first.
Okay, I guess let me just my career as an engineer really focused primarily after graduate school, when I was in the Air Force at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base as an engineer and scientist for about 4 years, and then after that I came to Ohio State as a professor. So really, as an engineer at Wright-Patterson, of course, it was working on exciting projects related to new advanced aircraft. I'm a materials engineer, which really means I develop new materials and work on new materials that you incorporate into new aircraft and missile systems. So it was a great job looking for new materials. Titanium, I'm very involved in advanced titanium alloys and new materials for aerospace, and that was a fun part of the job, was just working on new materials, working with companies to create new aircraft systems around those materials. After about 4 years, I went to Ohio State, so then I became a teacher. And that was exciting also. It was that profession, being a professor at a major university like Ohio State, really allows you to do many different things. Certainly teaching is important. I love teaching. I enjoy it. I love being in the classroom with the students. I still teach even though I'm a very busy person and dean. I still view that as a very important part of what I do. But you can also do research, and so I was able to continue the research that I had begun at Wright-Patterson on advanced materials, welding and joining, titanium and other materials, and also work with companies, consult, work with GE, work with NASA, work with Wright-Patterson, continue to work with them, and actually stayed involved with them in the reserves for many years and just retired a few years ago from Wright-Patterson in the reserve. So it's been a great position to teach, to do research, to do outreach and engagement, let you do all those different things, and that's why I enjoy it. And administration, and not long, I was a professor for a while, moved into being a department chair, an associate dean. I was the interim vice president for research for Ohio State for a period, left for a while to another university to be the dean there, and then came back a few years ago to be the dean of engineering at Ohio State. So I enjoy teaching, research, the leadership, the administration, the opportunity to provide leadership, to work with the faculty, to work with the staff and the students to move the organization forward. And that's the fun part about being a university administrator. And really, a big part of being a university administrator is to work and enable the success of the people you work with. That's sort of my definition of leadership, to support them, to develop a vision, to lead them, but really to let them, a university is full of very bright, capable, intelligent, hardworking people. And so my goal is to facilitate and move them forward and to do whatever I can to help them be successful in their careers. And likewise with the students and faculty.
What inspired you to be such a leader in engineering and
I think, you know, when you come up through the Air Force, and that was my upbringing in some sense, that's the Air Force, ROTC, being in the Air Force is all about leadership. I mean, if you take courses, that's what it's about. And so I think even going back to those days, it was about developing leadership, about enjoying being a leader, about the skills and the tools to do it. And I'd say it probably goes back to when I was in the Air Force, when I actually became a second-level manager, even as a lieutenant, and enjoyed doing that and providing that leadership. And then when it came to academia, it was similar. You know, it was about leading. It was about people asking me to provide leadership to the department and in the college, and I enjoyed that. I thrived on that, and that's pretty much it. Role models, you know, great former deans, administrators that have worked for me, or not worked for me, administrators that whom I worked for, certainly, and leaders, all inspired me and gave me the, you know, you learn from them. You learn the best practices. You learn the tools. You know, it's all about working with people. It's all about dealing with people, and you learn those skills over time as you work for effective people.
What are you and OSU doing to encourage students to, now obviously you're a Dean of Engineering, so you're going to have a lot of students who are already interested in engineering, but what are you doing to further students' interests?
Well, probably the best example is the freshman year. You know, and when I was a student at Ohio State, you came into engineering and you took math and you took physics and you took chemistry, and you really didn't get into engineering until almost most of the way through your second year. Today at Ohio State, we've got a great first-year program in which we get our students engaged in engineering from day one. So they come out of high school, the first day they're on campus, they're not just taking the math and the physics and the chemistry, they're taking engineering. They're making things, they're designing, they're testing, they're working in teams, they're leading teams, they're doing all those things that make an engineer successful. So they really get a feel for what engineering is all about. They do work in different areas, whether it's in civil engineering or product development, mechanical, biomedical engineering. We expose them to all these different aspects of engineering so they understand what kind of engineer they might want to be. But also, is that really for them? And so it's very different. You know, so a big part of what we do is from day one, get the students in there, get them understanding what engineering is about, get them excited, get them interested. And that leads to retention rates now from the first year to the second year of around 90%, which is substantially higher than it has been in the past. And I attribute that to first the fact that, as you probably know, the quality of students at Ohio State keeps ramping up at a very significant slope, and the fact that we've got a great first-year program that gets the kids and gets the students doing engineering from day one, and that just leads to a very high retention rate from first to second year. Again, our goal is to engage the students, educate the students, enlighten them about what interests them in a career, and do everything we can to make them successful, and they are very successful.
So what is it about your career that makes you the most proud? Anything from when you were an undergraduate all the way from where you are now?
I think the proudest thing about my career is the leadership is certainly important, and it's great when I look back on the positions that I've been in and I see how those organizations have improved and advanced. But probably what's even more important to me is when I go back and look at the students who I've had in the classroom, the students who I have advised for their master's degree as graduate students or PhD, and I look back where they're at and I see the success that they've had in their careers, due at least a little bit to the fact that I was in their classroom, they learned from me, they took something out of that classroom, or I advised and mentored them as a graduate student. And the most fun of this job is not so much what I'm about, it's about looking at the people who I've impacted, former students, see how successful they are, and that's what I guess probably the greatest satisfaction out of my job at this point.